Hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a great day so far, or evening. Thank you for joining us. We're back with another exciting GESS Talks webinar, and today's discussion is on the importance of sustainability in education and how schools and educators can all play a vital role in promoting sustainable best practices, whether it's through curriculum development, campus operations, or community engagement. I won't give too much away, as you'll hear from our fantastic panelists shortly. Unfortunately, one of our panelists, Rasha Al-Najjar, will be joining us shortly. But first, I'd like to say a big thank you to our webinar sponsor, Microsoft. Microsoft Education provides schools with solutions, technologies, and education expertise to accelerate opportunities for all learners. Their tools support diverse learning needs in a student-centered learning environment to provide equitable, inclusive, and accessible learning that inspires confidence and encourages independence. A few bits of information as well before we get underway. For all attendees, you can find the control panel on the side. There's a Q&A tab and another one for handouts. You can browse and download the files at any time during the webinar. Please feel free to use the Q&A, ask us questions, as the panelists would love to hear your thoughts. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our chair and moderator, Anthony Dixon, the founder of the Alliance for Sustainable Schools, to introduce the rest of the panel. Thank you, and over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Danny, and welcome everybody to this panel discussion. I'll introduce the other panelists in a moment, but I want to first of all introduce myself and say a word about the Alliance for Sustainable Schools. So I'm the founder of the Alliance, and the Alliance is a non-profit network of schools around the world that share a commitment to a sustainable future. Our current network includes schools from 28 countries, from Kenya through the Middle East and all the way across to the Philippines. TAS is two things. TAS is the acronym for the Alliance. TAS is two things. It's a community of practice and it's a change agent. As a community of practice, we connect sustainability practitioners, like many of you, I'm sure, around the world, sharing their learning, communicating best practice, and helping to amplify their impact. By sharing their sustainability expertise with each other, schools can have a bigger impact, and by working together, rather than individually, schools can be more effective at helping to bring about change. As an agent of change, the Alliance aims to harness the collective influence of our members to catalyse systems change in 5 areas that are important for sustainable schools: school food, school buses, school uniforms, school buildings, and education for sustainability. These things, we think, account for 90% of the environmental footprint of most schools everywhere in the world. We do these things by working with students and partnering with innovative organisations in various local communities where our members operate. Our member schools share a commitment to the principles of the Sustainable Schools Charter, which the head of each school signs when their school joins the Alliance. The Charter expresses their commitment to prioritise sustainability in every aspect of the school's operations and decision-making. The Middle Eastern hub of the Alliance is convened by Brett Gervin, who's the principal of the Arbor School, and Brett has put together a series of workshops on education for sustainability, the first of which will take place in Dubai, for those of you interested, on March the 21st. If you'd like to know more about the Alliance, Danny will post a brochure about the Alliance in the chat, and would be pleased to hear from you. So more and more schools around the world are making an effort to become sustainable. They're considering the environmental impact of their facilities and operations. They're developing curricula to foster sustainability competencies in their students and educate young people to be effective stewards of the planet. And they're thinking deeply about what it means to be a sustainable community and how to put that into practice in the day-to-day life of their school. As you all know, this is a significant year for sustainability in the UAE, with the President declaring 2023 to be the year of sustainability, and the UAE being the chair of the COP28 Environment Conference in December. So I'm delighted this evening to be hosting this discussion about sustainable schools with 2 and hopefully 3 leading sustainability practitioners at schools in the UAE, and if Rasha joins, in Bahrain. Hren from the Arbor School in Dubai and Maryam Denton-Cardew from Citizen School in Dubai are with us at the moment, and shortly we hope to have Rasha Al-Najjar from Al-Hekma School in Bahrain. Maryam and Ben, welcome and thank you for joining the panel.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. I would like to begin by asking each of you to introduce yourselves and your school and say a little bit about your sustainability role in the school. And before you begin, Rasha, can you... Rasha, welcome.
Welcome. I'm very sorry for this technical issue.
No problem. We're glad to have you with us. And we're just about to commence. So I'll pass this over to Maryam, and perhaps you could begin with an introduction of yourself.
Absolutely. Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm the head of sustainability at Citizens School. And Citizens is a brand new school in Dubai. We only opened in September. We're here to do things differently and do it really, really well. We're a progressive school, and our aim is to curate learning to promote the dispositions and competencies of 21st century learners. So we call them entrepreneurial, mouthful, life skills. We want to prepare our learners to be kind of, can-do individuals who can just go for it. We want them to be agile, creative, and resilient. And really kind of in a nutshell, we want to show our students how big and beautiful the world is, naturally, culturally, and in terms of the opportunities that the world can give them in their journey through life.
Thank you, Maryam. Ben?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ben Hren, and I am the director of the Center for Abundance at the Arbor School. And just before I introduce the Arbor School, I just wanted to say a few words about my background. I have been an educator, an environmental educator, sustainability educator for more than 40 years. I've spent over 20 years working directly in schools and about 20 years working for environmental NGOs. And in preparing for this session this afternoon, I took just a quick moment to kind of look back and think about kind of the moments that in my career that have kind of led to this. And one of the things that surprised me was that more than 30 years ago, I wrote a concept paper for a Green Schools Recognition Award that was a state level award in the US. And to think that we're now more than 30 years down the line, and in some ways it still feels like we're having the exact same conversation that we had 30 years ago. I mean, the workshop that what we're about to talk about this afternoon probably is not that different than we have been what we have discussed then. And so I think it's really important to think about why we've not made more progress today as we kind of go through our discussion today. One of the reasons that I was so keen to come to Dubai was the opportunity to work with the Arbor School. And the Arbor School, a lot like the Citizens School, has a really different view about what learning and education could and should be. Our school is now in its 5th year, and we have really taken the time to develop our sustainability practice organically and gradually so that it really is fit for purpose. We didn't just launch right in with a fully formed program. We work toward a set of sustainability competencies in our graduates. So we have a kind of a short list of things that we hope that all of our students are becoming as a result of their experience at Arbor. And what started as a strap line has kind of transformed into a vision statement for our school. And that's this idea of enough for all forever. And our objective at Arbor is to provide those learning experiences that prepare learners with the knowledge, skills, attitudes, dispositions, and sense of agency to go out and imagine and build that world where there's enough for all forever.
Thank you, Ben. And Rasha, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Al-Hekma School.
So hello, everyone. My name is Rasha Al-Najjar. I'm the middle school, high school assistant principal here at Al-Hekma. I've been here for over 12, even more, 13 years, let's say. And here, our school mission is to build the global citizens who are responsible for their community and for their resources. And we have been working very hard from years on our STEAM program and linking everything that students do from PBL, the project-based learning, into sustainability, linked to the SDGs, linked to all the Vision 2030 sustainable vision, and making the students realize how important that is and how their role is also very important. Our students started their own permaculture garden where they grow what they eat, and they actually take the measurements of the different crops, and they know what can be grown in this climate and what can't, we also have our own greenhouse. We invite other schools to see what we do and what we grow, and we try always to celebrate all these awareness campaigns, environmental campaigns, let's say like World Environment Day, Earth Hour, spread it throughout the community. All our stakeholders are highly interested in being part of this, very important role, which is, reserving our resources, taking an action. Every small action counts. So if we start from the very, small age, and our students, the foundation of our students is built up about, being responsible and being caring about their environment, then we are building a generation which can take care of our our Earth, our planet. So
Rasha, well
it's very
said.
nice. Yeah.
That's well said. Thank you for the
Thank you,
introduction.
Anthony.
We'll come
Thank
back
you.
to some of these themes in
Sure.
the course of the conversation. I wanted to just touch on a couple of words that struck a chord for me in the introduction that Ben and Maryam gave. And one of them was the word abundance, and the other one was the word entrepreneurship. And I wonder, Ben, you have a fascinating title of Director of the Center for Abundance at the Arbor School. If you could just speak a little bit about how that came to be, and what is the connection between abundance and sustainability?
Yeah, I should first say that we didn't invent the term abundance. Abundance is a term that people who had been talking about sustainability are beginning to use. And in fact, abundance, the idea of abundance comes from the work of Bill McDonough, who is a sustainability designer, architect based in the US, who probably more than 20 years ago began to describe this idea of abundance as an alternative to sustainability. And when I say an alternative, when we began to look at the pillars that kind of make up what we do at our school, we have this one of the pillars is sustainability, the other pillar is justice and equity, and the third pillar is well-being. And when you think about those three things really are about kind of elevating, a situation where you might have mental or physical illness, or you might have conflict, or you might have environmental degradation, up just a tiny, tiny level to this neutral level. So you get to this point where we're sustainable. We're not damaging the environment anymore by what we do. And we are, we have justice and equity. We're no longer engaged in conflict. And we have well-being where we no longer have illness. And we began saying, isn't there something more? Why are we shooting for this kind of neutral ground? So instead of talking about well-being, we're now talking about flourishing. And instead of talking about social justice and equity, we're now talking about harmony. And instead of talking about merely sustainability, we're now talking about abundance. And one of the reasons that we did that is that we thought that if we aimed higher, that even if we don't hit that higher mark, we may end up in a higher place than if we were heading just for that middle neutral layer. And so it's a way of kind of just expressing this really ambitious outlook that we have in terms of what we're preparing our learners for. We don't just want them to inherit or build a world that's sustainable. We want them to build a world of abundance. And by abundance, we don't mean people have lots of things. When we talk about abundance, we're talking about the quality of our lives, not the quantity of things we have in our lives.
That's an important distinction. I think you'll have to change your strap line to read "more than enough for all forever."
Abundance forever. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And what about the word entrepreneurship? I'm also fascinated by that, Maryam. You referred to that in the curriculum, and you went on to say that you're trying to equip students to be. I can't remember the exact words you used, but something like change makers, I think was the term.
Yeah,
and
I love your word, change makers.
It seems to me that entrepreneurship, is an essential part of the skill set that we need our students to learn, to develop, in order for them to be able to alter the world that we're
1,000%. 1,000%. And we are, our big goal is to give them the knowledge of what's happening in the world in terms of things that are going well, things that aren't going well, and how can we make that better in a way that is not damaging the environment anymore. So you can look at problems that are damaging the environment and do them in a different way, and you can look at things that are good for the environment and support those things. So it's about knowledge and choices. really. And, it's funny, I actually had this discussion with a colleague of mine today about the word entrepreneurship. And I said to him, he said something, and I kind of slightly cynically said, "Oh, you're only interested in making money. You're an entrepreneur." And he said, "No, that's not the way to think of entrepreneurship. It is having a great idea and going with it. And so what we want our students to do is to have great ideas, but to be able to assess that idea against what will, be sustainable in the future. Because no matter how you slice it, our world is in trouble. And we cannot keep doing things the way that we have been doing it. We absolutely cannot. So, to kind of give you a real example of what we'll be doing in school next term, is we currently have 2 greenhouses that are working, and the children have been harvesting, and we've grown some great stuff in there. However, the company that built the greenhouse, when we looked at it and we take the students to look at it, we say, right, is this well insulated? And the answer is it's not right now. So with the students, through project-based learning, through sustainability, through entrepreneurship, we're going to be getting them to come up with a way to insulate our greenhouses. And then, so you start at the model level. We do prototypes. We see which one is the best type of insulation, and where are we going to get that insulation from? Well, we've got recycling bins in school, but what's happening to what's going in those recycling bins? So we contact our providers who are the company that's collecting our waste, right? What are you doing with it? Are you sorting it and cleaning it? If so, can we bring some of that back and bring that circular economy onto campus and use that for our students to see if they can create insulating material out of that? And that right there is entrepreneurship and sustainability all rolled into one. And the learning and it ties into science, and there's so many ways of linking it. But it's real world, and it's them finding solutions to problems that are right there in front of them.
So there are so many threads in your comments that I want to come back
Sorry.
to. I'm sure. No, it's terrific. Ben, go ahead.
I really like what Maryam said, and I just wanted to mention that when you think of learning for sustainability, this idea of preparing learners for their post-secondary life is a big part of what education is about. And most of our learners will pursue some kind of livelihood. And if that livelihood is going to be sustainable, they not only need the skills of an entrepreneur. A lot of schools, and our school included, actually approach entrepreneurship from the perspective of social entrepreneurship. Yeah. So the idea of building businesses that benefit both people and the environment, rather than generating wealth for individuals. And explicitly teaching that through practical projects, giving kids lots of experience about what that looks like before they actually go out and begin thinking about what their career is going to be and what the role of sustainability is going to be in whatever career they pick, because they're not all going to choose to be environmental engineers. A lot of them are going to choose careers that don't have an obvious connection to sustainability, but actually have a really important connection to sustainability.
And actually, just linking to what you're saying there, Ben, we, as we said, we keep saying, the world has to change right now. And so the students, right now, Citizens is a primary school. We'll be moving up to year 7 and so on from next year. But in 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, when our students are joining the workforce, the jobs that they'll be going into, we are not even in a position to imagine them, so we can't even say, right, this can be, as you said, environmental engineer. There'll be something else. There'll be something else. There'll be something else. Right now we've got content creators, which is a career that wasn't there when 6 years ago, 7 years ago. So it's amazing that we work in a field where there's so much change. There's constant change, and we've got to adapt and adapt and adapt. But it's also really exciting to be able to do that with our students.
Yeah.
True, and this is why we have to prepare our students for that. Like, you're making them life ready. So whatever, once they graduate, they're going to be ready for this life. They're going to be for the new jobs that's there in the market, to take care of their environment so that they can, enjoy it and enjoy for the rest and upcoming generations, right? So once they're life ready, they can manage anything.
That's well said. I think we're something, the four of us, of an echo chamber. We all agree with everything each of us is saying. And I think an interesting question that I'd like to hear your thoughts on is, why should schools be doing this? Yes, preparing students for the future world of work. Yes, the planet needs help. But most schools, particularly the privately owned schools, have the profit motive, don't necessarily have sustainability writ large in their mission, and they're answerable to a board that has other things on its mind. So what is the reason? I mean, the motivation for your involvement in sustainability and education, I think, it's an individual choice and decision. But at an institutional level, what are schools' motivations in your experience for pursuing or wanting to pursue becoming a sustainable community? Let me throw that to you, Maryam. Okay, go for it.
So a very easy one is it will actually save them money. So if your building is designed in a more energy efficient way, you are directly saving money on bills. So that's a very, very easy one. It's
easy, but it's not always an easy argument. It's not always easy to prove. It's intuitively most often the case that there is money to be saved because things are inefficient, but it's quite a hard argument to make when you're faced with someone who wants to see, the hard proof.
So in my case, I'm maybe perhaps in a unique position where I'm lucky enough to have a CEO and school owners who are fully on board with driving forward with whatever changes we suggest as staff, students coming up with things and saying, look, I read about this. Can we, I had the discussion with you, Anthony, about school buses and biofuel. And that was something that my students were already talking about. So, the fact that our school, again, I can only speak of my own school, is very, very open and the channel is open and the meetings are constant and the changes are happening right now. And to kind of come back to your question of how do you prove it for something like saving energy. We actually, when the school opened in September, so we've got motion sensor lights in the corridors and, everything was going well. But the motion sensors were set to 30 minutes before they go to sleep, turn everything off. And so we changed it from 30 minutes to 30 seconds. And straight away, there's a huge difference on your energy bill. So,
of course.
There are some quick
example.
fixes that are easy to bring people on board with. And sometimes I find that if you can do something as simple as that, you already can get the
win hearts and minds. It sounds to me like you're in the fortunate position of having a CEO who's doesn't need to be persuaded that sustainability is an appropriate thing for a school to pursue.
I agree.
Even irrespective of perhaps of what the investment might be. Ben, what's your take on this question?
Yeah, so I mean, I completely understand the point that Maryam is making. One of the things I think is interesting is that one of the things that schools don't do, primary, secondary schools don't do so much of, is actually take time to really get to know how tertiary education is changing, how university education is changing, and how the world is changing. And in fact, if you were to look at some of the big universities, some of the universities we all aspire our children to be able to access, those universities actually, this is their agenda. And I think that we don't address this agenda in primary and secondary at the peril of suddenly beginning to prepare students who are not prepared or who are not going to be academically competitive to go into those places. Interestingly, part of our sustainability program actually involves positive education. And just today in our session on positive meaning, we were talking about ikigai, which is a Japanese concept about finding your place in the world. And ikigai is based on, thinking about the thing you love, thinking about the thing that you're good at, thinking about the thing the world needs, and thinking about the thing that you can get paid at. And I think that one of the big things that's changing in the world is this idea of what the world needs and what you can actually get paid for doing today. I think that probably 5 years ago, if we would have had this conversation, it would have been hard to convince parents or people in secondary education that this is a really fast growing field in the job market. People who have skills in sustainability and who have these dispositions of sustainability thinkers, people who are systems thinkers, people who are futures, be able to think about futures, people who are collaborators. Those are the skills that employers are looking for. And those are the same skills that actually kind of, help learners become those individuals who are ready for the next thing, whatever that next thing is, that thing that we can't imagine yet.
So that's a compelling case for it. Tell me, and it ties directly with school's central mission, which is to prepare students for the wider world. That's also a good segue into one of the topics that I wanted to delve a bit deeper into in our conversation today, which is sustainability in the curriculum. And I know that Ben, you've been instrumental in developing a fascinating curriculum for the Arbor School that I'm going to use the wrong words here, but teaches sustainability to students in the school. And I know, Maryam, you've also been given the task of developing a curriculum which includes sustainability as one of the threads. So I'd like, and Rasha, I'd like to hear from you too. Tell us about, briefly, let's start with Ben, about the curriculum that you've developed at Arbor School and how it directly prepares students for the work of the future.
So this is a project that we began working on in earnest in kind of the third year of the school. So we didn't open with the curriculum. The curriculum is really based on trying some things in those early first years and then developing a more formal approach to teaching and learning. And fundamentally, the approach is based on, number one, having a set of standards, knowing the concepts, the attitudes, the dispositions that we want to develop in students, knowing what that looks like in a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old and a 17-year-old, and designing curricula that provide those developmentally appropriate learning experiences that deliver those standards. The other thing on top of that, of course, is the selection of pedagogy. And we say that our pedagogy is place-based and inquiry-based. So our pedagogy is driven by learners' questions and learners' interests as much as it is by the standards. And we ground our pedagogy in the Middle East, in the experience of the Middle East. And so we begin by looking at the local, and then gradually as students get older and developmentally are prepared to do so, we expand to the global. We developed our own set of eco-literacy concepts and principles, which we map in our curriculum so that we understand where in the curriculum it's happening. We actually have timetabled classes in eco-literacy. So from 3 years old to 18-year-olds, children have timetabled eco-literacy classes. But eco-literacy, the environment, environmental science, environmental systems are also used as a context for other subject learning. So in our primary program, we have transdisciplinary units of study, which are typically grounded in an environmental or an ecological idea. In our secondary program, we're kind of developing a similar approach. Right now, we have traditional kind of geography, history, but we're looking at actually creating those transdisciplinary projects, even in our Key Stage 3 program. When we move to Key Stage 4 and 5, all of our Key Stage 4 students take an IGCSE course called Global Perspectives as part of their core. It's not an option. If you come to our school, this is what we're about. So you take Global Perspectives as part of the core. And again, when we get to A levels, we will offer the greatest diversity of environmental systems and global perspectives courses that we can to those graduates. In our senior program, our Key Stage 4 and 5 program, we also have kind of a unique global impact certificate, which is kind of a mashup of Duke of Edinburgh Award and the IB Extended Essay and the MYP Personal Project. It's a series of personal, both individual and collaborative inquiries that students do over that 4-year period that they're in Key Stage 4 and 5. There are exhibitions at key points in the process, and students who kind of complete all of that program get a global impact certificate, which is additional qualification on top of their graduation diploma with the National Curriculum for English.
I have 2 questions for you. Where do I sign up?
I was going to say that.
And also,
I think the important thing is that we didn't, number one, we didn't invent this and then try to develop the school to fit around it, that we opened the school and we really kind of tried to design this so that it fit kind of the growing character of who we were as a school community. So when we finally did this, it didn't feel like it was imposed on people. It felt like we were finally formalizing this thing that we all felt and that we all were doing. And that kind of development process where you kind of bring people on board by honoring the practice that they bring to what you're doing and build on that. And what more than anything else, what we did is we just kind of built coherence among all these different things that people naturally are driven to teach about and to engage children in. I really believe that if teachers have that freedom to kind of curate and design the curriculum based around standards, that 9 times out of 10, they're going to be picking topics that are related to the issues that surround children all the time. And most of those, in some way or another, connect to the environment or social issues or economic issues, or the interrelationship between those.
Well, my second question is this, and then I want to ask Maryam to talk about the sustainability thread in the curriculum at Citizens. But my second question is, I'm a busy 15-year-old. I've got music classes, language classes, sports activities 3 days a week. How do we fit all of that sustainability curriculum that you just described into my timetable without, eroding my well-being?
Yep. That's a really important question, and I would say I don't know if we've actually done that in a way that doesn't erode well-being, but I would like to think
we'll have to ask your 15-year-olds, Ben.
Yeah. But I would like to think that opportunity to actually participate in kind of a structured class period where I'm actually exploring the thing I'm interested in is really different than going to a music class and learning content that someone else thinks is the appropriate thing for me to learn at that time. Our eco-literacy classes, when we get to inquiry in the upper years, that inquiry is driven by the students. It's not the teacher saying, okay, well, now we're all going to answer this question. Typically, the students will have some kind of experience and they'll develop their own questions and their own lines of inquiry, which they will pursue. And again, we have the luxury. This is a tested subject. And so there is the luxury of really being able to follow students' interests rather than follow a prescribed curriculum. And kids,
super.
Anyone would prefer that, I think, over being spoon-fed something that they don't have any control over.
Fair point.
Of course, hands-on always is the best part. Like when students try it by themselves, and it's the practical thing, inquiry, critical thinking. They come up with these ideas that can help their environment. Of course, it's very satisfying, and of course, it's gonna hit for the well-being. It's gonna make them feel better and feel proud that they actually, do something that is effective for their environment and community. So I think it's highly linked to well-being as well. Yes.
Rasha, what does sustainability in the curriculum look like at Al-Hekma?
In every thing we do here is it revolves around sustainability, as Maryam and Ben also stressed out that it's really all connected. So it's embedded in our science curriculum very much. Like we have a lot of we adopt the NGSS, which is the General Science Standards, and for next generation, and they have a big part of environmental science. So from the very young age, our students learn about environmental science, and then we link all our PBL and other projects. Like in business department, in STEAM and STEM, we have a lot of project-based learning where all the projects also revolve about sustainability and climate change, and students come up with ideas of projects and prototypes that can help their environment. So we have it widely spread. It's all interdisciplinary learning that it's linked to every subject. Even in the Arabic and English classes, we try as much as we can to have students write about it, research, come up with poems, novel. They write about sustainability. They come up with ideas. So it's highly linked from K to 12 and in all subjects together. We also have it as in electives in our high school, so students can go deeper and take environmental science in electives in high school, and they can learn more about it. We have a lot of community and extracurricular activities that are linked to sustainable activities, so they can take part, they can volunteer, they can be part of the community. For example, the last thing our students did is that they collected a large number of bottles in return of a wheelchair, which is a very nice thing to give back to the community, and at the same time they learn how to save plastic and take care of their environment. We are now focusing on, the carbon, how to like reduce the carbon footprint, and how our school can take part in that. So we try as much as we can. Our greenhouse, for example, is now functioning on solar cells. So we try every year to develop more and more, and we try every year to add something that can help our students more. So it's highly embedded in all subjects and throughout the grade levels.
Very good. Maryam, can you just speak briefly about the curriculum at Citizens?
Yeah, sure, Anthony. So what we have is similar to what Ben was saying, but in terms of we call it sustainability instead of calling it eco-literacy. So we do teach it as a standalone subject. And then the curriculum, and of course it does filter in, and it does that naturally anyway, as Ben was saying. So we've got project-based learning, and based on what the children and the teachers work together to choose the projects each half term, there's always an element that comes from the sustainability side, just because it is very, very real, and students are aware of it even before they join us. So the conversations are already there. So what we did to develop our curriculum is we took the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and of the 8, so the 8 out of 17 that link to sustainability, we condensed those into 6 areas. So we've got life on land, we've got water everywhere. We need clean technology, responsible production and consumption, climate action, and zero hunger. So those are kind of our 6 categories that our concepts fall under. And then again, as Ben said, the concept is also tailored to the age level of the student and their kind of developmental understanding. So that's how we've structured it. But we're not just looking at curriculum. Again, you all know this. It's a whole individual approach. And we've also put some emphasis on the extracurricular activities and the trips. And I think, and I'm sure you guys agree, I mean, tell me if you don't, that to get students really passionately driven to actually make better choices, they need to have a connection with nature. They need to be out there and see, well, why should I care about this? What is it that I'm helping, that I'm saving, that I'm motivated by. So our ECAs, horse riding, sailing, skiing, rock climbing, all of this is getting the kids out of the city, get out of these walls. Let's go out there, let's experience it, and then come back with questions for us. If you're out in the mountains learning how to rock climb and you see there's garbage everywhere, you see the wadis are drying up, you see you're out sailing and why can't I see any fish? Shouldn't there be fish everywhere? Things like that. That's bringing those questions of the outside world into the classroom, and straight away sustainability is right there.
This is a perfect lob for me. I'm a tennis player. You see this comment that he just made. I'm going to support a forehand smash across court here. No, it's a setup for my next question and the point that I want to delve into, and it ties into one of the questions from one of the participants who's asked the question. This is Cobus Dutois. He said, "What experiences do you offer your students to help them see opportunities for improvement?" I think he means campus improvement. And how do you allow these ideas to bubble up to your school leaders? So listening to you talk, Maryam, I was very aware that you talked about, and also Rasha, about many activities that are outside of the school grounds. We take the kids out to see nature. We go rock climbing. We do things off the school grounds and away from the campus. And then they bring their inquiries and their concerns back into the classroom. And one of my big themes in our work is the idea that the campus itself
absolutely
is rich with opportunities to identify. If you may be familiar with the term hidden curriculum, the way things are done unconsciously by the school in its day-to-day operations of the facilities that indicate unsustainable behaviors or unsustainable ways of operating. And that it's not the idea that you could do a biodiversity survey of the campus. You don't. It's obviously, of course, it's lovely to do that in the nature reserve and at the ocean as well. But right in front of us, all the time, everywhere, there are not only opportunities to learn by observing unsustainable things and figuring out how to fix them, but also to improve the sustainability of the campus. And right there is the kind of life skills training that we were talking about earlier, in a very applied way. So coming back to the question from the participant, how do you support students to identify those kinds of opportunities, and how do you then, what's the governance structure in the school that enables those opportunities to be brought forward to a decision-making group that is going to take it seriously and, you know, do something about it if that's appropriate?
So just again, speaking of my school and you know, schools in Dubai vary hugely. I've worked in a lot of them, and so in Citizens, it is wonderful that we have the support of the board, that we have the support of the CEO, and thinking about things directly on campus which are happening now. And we've only been open since September. As I was saying, with the structure of the greenhouses and getting the students to think of, right, how can we insulate this greenhouse better? So that is directly, they're seeing the problem, they're getting involved with the solution. We have a school uniform, but it's not compulsory. The reason it's not compulsory is because, again, that's in the interests of reducing consumption. You know, do you have to go and make a family go and buy a new school uniform every year because the child's outgrown it? No, you don't. But if you want to have a school uniform, it's there. However, what have our students noticed? Well, actually, you know, the students have learned that the materials are important in terms of sustainability, and can you recycle this fabric, and can it be put into a circular economy? And our current provider, not so much. So the children are looking at, we're inviting or getting the kids to invite experts in. Right, why should we choose your fabric? Why should we choose your company? Tell us how you're sustainable, and give the children the through picture, so that they can then say, okay, you know what? We were going to choose between these three, and this is why, and this is why, and this is why. So 1000%, it's getting them to make changes themselves that they see. Another one is the shade of our football pitch. So our site was chosen for several reasons. One of them is it's quite central, so we've got a lot of public transport connections. We've got a lot of families that can walk and cycle and e-scooter to school, which is fantastic. We're close to a metro station, but also rather wonderfully, we're right in the shadow of three enormous skyscrapers. So those three skyscrapers shade our pitch for half of the day, which is magnificent. And again, that's showing the children, well, you know, this was planned. There's a reason that the football pitch was put there. You know, this is not random. But we don't have any shading for the seating right now. So, you know, in a traditional school who's doing things the way that everything's always been done, you know, you throw metal bleachers up, but that's not what we're going to do. We said to the kids, right, come up with a sustainable way of doing it. And you give them that question with very little guidance and see what they come back with. And then you can kind of, we're not even called teachers actually in our school, we're called mentors, because that's the whole really role of the adult in the room.
Rasha, sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on your school uniform idea. I think that is a brilliant way to have kids think about, you know, what they purchase and how much they purchase. And at our school, we've had lots and lots of discussions around school uniforms, and we do still have a uniform. But one of the things that we have done is that we've actually chosen a provider who manufactures those uniforms using sustainably sourced materials and sustainable methods. But not only that, this particular provider is a social entrepreneur. And so his company, for every uniform that our children buy, a student in Africa, where you have to have a uniform to attend school, receives a uniform. And even more importantly, so this isn't about a business here in Dubai who's buying a uniform in China and sending it to Kenya for children to wear to access education. This is a company that actually has gone into Kenya and has set up a textile operation to manufacture those uniforms in the communities where those kids live. So, you know, it's this amazing. It's interesting. We kind of came upon this individual and this product at the exact same time that we were launching our own social entrepreneurship curriculum within our school. And again, I wanted to point it out because it's so important for kids to see those real life role models. I mean, people in the real world are becoming successful business people with a social and environmental purpose to what they're doing, not just this idea of creating personal wealth. And I think that having kids, I have to say that I really suspect that kind of the quality of the projects that our own children pick, because they all kind of create a model of a social entrepreneurship business, that they were really inspired by this idea that this is real, that there are people in our own community here who are doing this and are wildly successful at it, and are, not just benefiting themselves, but benefiting the environment and people in other parts of the world.
Do you know, and Ben, it's so wonderful that you brought that up. Actually, within our curriculum design, one of the things that we made sure was actually looking at case studies. And I think I mentioned this to Anthony previously. We're actually really fortunate that, social media is something which is already in children's lives, because that means that you can find out what is happening somewhere far flung in the world right now. And it doesn't take much. So, finding out this is happening in Kenya, you said you started your sustainability journey 30 years ago. That wouldn't have been something that you could just, let's connect with him. So it's actually a wonderful, exciting time to be able to teach the students, teach them about sustainability, but also go through it with them, because it is constantly changing. And we can see, this is happening here. This is happening here. Singapore's just introduced their building code where everything that is built now has to have 80% greenery. I mean, that's amazing. That's enormous, In the Netherlands, Amsterdam is going towards a circular economy. Fantastic. How are you doing it? How can we learn from that? So all of this stuff this content is really at our fingertips right now. And it's magnificent, really, that we can then just get the kids excited and making things happen. So I have to find out more about that Kenya guy from you as well.
Yeah.
One of our students came up with this idea of a sustainable clothing brand, and it was actually one of the project ideas. And now they're making small samples, and it's great to see students think this way, like having their own brand of sustainable clothing and spreading this awareness among their community. It's really, really nice. And every like small thing matters. As Maryam, she shared like a lot of sustainable things that they do around school campus. For example, we cut on papers. Like we have a BYOD system, which is bring your own device. So every student has their own, devices and laptops. We barely use papers. So it's basically everything is online and digital, and we have all the ebook versions of all our books. So we try as much as we can, and look, if every school take this step, how much we will, save on papers and trees. So every small act, matters. If every school took this part, then we will all together, make a big action, and the effect will be bigger.
I'm interested to hear, listening to the three of you speak, the three very different schools and three different school cultures, and yet they're all doing amazing. All three schools are doing amazing things in the sustainability area. I'd like to hear your opinions about what the kind of key ingredients are that makes this really take off. For schools in the audience who might be listening and thinking, how do I seed this kind of energy and momentum for sustainability in my school community? What advice do you have, and what are the things that are really going to help embed this in a way that itself is sustainable, i.e. durable?
Over to you, Ben.
Oh, yeah, so I'm going to kind of go back to my sustainable architect hero, Bill McDonough, who had one of his strap lines was design signals intent. And I think that if your intention is to prepare learners to be ready in this really uncertain future, but a future where we know that the competencies that underpin sustainability are going to be really, really key, that's what you have to design for. If you're interested in this, you can't kind of just say, oh, well, we're going to have a club that does this, or we have an eco counselor, we're working on a green flag program. You have to embed it in who you are and what you're doing. It has to become part of your mission. It has to be formally part of your curriculum, because what we know, what I know from more than 30 years of doing this, is that bolt on, if you just bolt something on that's driven by a keen individual in your school who's driving it forward, it's going to evaporate when that person goes away. But if it is built in as part of your school culture and the purpose of your school, it is going to endure and it's going to grow and it's going to get stronger and stronger, regardless of staff transition or student cohorts. So I would say that the most important thing is this really big commitment. This is who we are at school. It's part of our mission. It's the way that we're going to measure our success, whether or not we are producing learners who have this knowledge, understanding, skills, and dispositions, and starting.
That suggests it's really, and I agree with what you said, but it suggests that it's an all or nothing endeavor here, and that the people in the audience may be thinking, well, how they may be very passionately committed to sustainability in their own particular domain or subject area, but the school as an institution is not on the same plane necessarily. How do those people get this institution to embrace it as a whole school endeavor?
Yeah, no, I think that is
question.
An enormous challenge, because you're absolutely right that there are a whole range of kind of philosophical ways that people can view their relationship with the environment and with the natural world and environmental systems. And if you don't actually view the environment as the common ground where all these other things we do play out, and recognize that kind of sustaining and respecting the integrity of those ecological systems as a basic foundation for human flourishing. If from a scientific perspective, if that's not how you operate, you're probably never going to come to the same decisions that our schools have come to in terms of the importance of this. And I think it's really kind of a funny thing, because I think that other kinds of philosophies around people's relationship and their role within nature and the environment can be really powerful arguments for kind of not going in this direction. This idea, well, if we have a school that focuses on technology is going to solve everything. And as long as we're producing graduates who are really skilled in technology, it doesn't matter what the issue is. If it's an environmental issue, if it's a social issue, that they're going to be able to solve it. But again, at the end of the day, it really depends on that underlying philosophy. If you actually believe that again, maintaining the integrity of the environment is the foundation for human flourishing, then in some ways, this is kind of the logical place that you come to. You place this really at the heart of learning.
But it's
a simple
it doesn't
advice
mean that not
also. Sorry.
Go ahead, Rasha.
Yeah, a simple advice would also be like, schools think it's impossible to embed sustainability into their curriculum, or maybe change their campus into a green campus. It doesn't have to be all the steps together. You can start in baby steps and then grow up. You don't have to have a green campus to do some sustainable actions or be spread the environmental education. You can start from inside the class, from inside the field itself, and then you can spread it. So schools think it might be a lot of budgeting if they want to change their campus into a green campus, if they want to buy all these solar cells, change the lighting systems and the water system into the sensors. No, it doesn't have to be all together. You can start with baby steps, and then you can take it from there.
That's also a good point. I mean, I think it's listening to the magnitude of the commitment that Ben's school has made and Maryam's school has made, and yours too, Rasha, to sustainability. Some people maybe, I know schools that would be like, oh my goodness, it's sort of too overwhelming to contemplate even taking the first step. But taking the first step is, despite the point that Ben made, that it can't, it ought, in the ideal case, it should not be a bolt on, but taking the first step is
huge,
necessary.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I think that oftentimes one of the perceptions is that these two things, that the environmental performance of the campus and the school development and the school management, that is the most important piece of kind of placing sustainability at the heart of your curriculum. And rather ironically, I think that those things are important, and I think that the more carbon neutral a school can become, that's really wonderful. But I will tell you that the school that we work in, from an environmental performance perspective, is not a model school. But the amazing thing is that the data that comes out of how, where we kind of fall short in those areas, that is an amazingly powerful learning resource. And if we really focus what we're doing on, again, building those competencies for sustainability, then the other piece will come in time. I mean, again, if I was to say which was more important as a starting point, focusing on environmental performance or focusing on the learning piece that actually will drive environmental performance, I would say that focusing on the learning piece is more important. And that piece really is around prioritizing. It's not about increasing budgets. It doesn't cost more to kind of shift the way that the emphasis that you place on different aspects of your teaching.
That's very well said, Ben.
Changing the mindset of students. So when you start focusing on the learning itself, you will change the mindset. And once you change the mindset, everything works, right? Because they will start, taking actions. And as again, baby steps will build up.
I also think that the role of parents is also quite key. I found in my career in Dubai that parents have a fair amount of influence with schools. And as Rasha said, with getting the students on board, parents are also very good at listening to what their children tell them. So, because they see that their children suddenly care about this. Well, why? Tell me more about it, because the parents wouldn't have come from the same education that we're talking about now. And then the parents start asking the questions, the parents start having the discussions. And oftentimes they're asking us, well, what is this about and how can we do it better? And then getting the parents involved, I have found, is the easiest way to get the school leadership to change their mind.
And I was just going to add that probably the experience of the three schools that are represented here, because we actually say that this is who we are, parents select us because this is who we are. So this idea that there's no kind of economic, from a business perspective, there's a huge economic business case to be made for kind of picking this as part of your unique selling point. This is something that parents want their kids to be involved with, to encounter, to learn about. So in some ways, there's a market demand out there for schools that have a slightly, who've kind of developed differently and have kind of marketed themselves to parents and students as a different kind of institution. Yet kind of the shift might be difficult. But again, that design signals intent by stepping up from the beginning and saying, this is who we are as a school.
Yeah.
We have attracted a group of parents who this is exactly what they want for their children.
Yeah.
And those parents become actively involved in what you're doing, and they become a really invaluable resource as part of the school community.
Absolutely. And actually just even finding out what parents do and how they can come back into the class and talk about it. So, for example, when we're looking at clean technology, which is one of our strands within the sustainability curriculum, and looking at like the shipping industry, let's say, and is it right now, as it stands, is it a sustainable industry? Well, it's better than flying, but does that mean that we can't improve it? No, it doesn't. It means that we can always make things better. So we find the parents who are involved in the shipping industry, right, come into the classroom, tell us as an expert, as somebody who works in the field, tell us how it works. And then the children will use the knowledge that we've given them to then quiz the person who's involved. And it's amazing what shifts can happen through that as well. And that's just bringing the community into it as well, which is massively important. Schools aren't standalone. These are families. These are, and they're part of the city, and they're part of it's all connected. We all know that.
I love this. I wrote this down, Ben. The design signals intent, and I'd like to host another webinar just on that subject and invite school architects and designers to talk about work that they've done that signals their intent to provide sustainable campuses for their students. Because there are not very many examples in my awareness anywhere in the world where that's true. Maybe you know of some, but we need to that needs to happen quickly. Begin to happen quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the end of our conversation, and I'm just going to quickly scan the questions in the chat to see if there's anything that we would have time to address. And also at the same time, while I'm doing that, just invite the panelists to make any concluding remarks, and perhaps the guiding question here could be, what advice do you have for schools that are just getting started on their sustainability journey? What would the first step look like ideally?
The first step.
Schools out there that are just getting started, wondering what to do.
I think any project that you see through that is improving the either energy efficiency of your building or looking at how your cafeteria is selling food, anything where you can look at it from a sustainable point of view and make a change is a first step. I don't think there's a right or wrong first step or a better or worse first step, to be honest. Solar panels are a huge first step, but they are a first step, brilliant first step. But that's not to lessen any of the other things that can be done. I think it's wonderful that you've started this Alliance of Sustainable Schools, Anthony, and it's fantastic that it's happening in Dubai. And Dubai being a city where changes can happen from a government level very quickly, I think that's a magnificent thing. They can see a problem and they can say, do you know what, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to change the law, and everyone has to then follow it. So getting organizations together, getting schools together to be able to talk about it will definitely lend a voice to this issue, which is facing us all, which is protecting the planet.
Thank you for that. Rasha, do you have any final comments?
Yeah. Starting a small garden would be a first step. Embedding the environmental science and for all grade levels, interdisciplinary learning and teaching students in every subject. It's being consistent about it. All matters, and it can be simple steps to start with. Again, maybe we don't want to overwhelm schools and tell them you need to change your campus into a green campus and spend all this money at once. So maybe starting with very small steps and then taking it big. But every action matters. Yes, exactly. Every action matters. So if they start, it's about starting.
Yeah,
it's about starting.
Yeah.
And Ben, any final comments from you?
Yeah. So I'll actually offer a counterpoint to that, because I think that when we think of first steps, we often think of that kind of keen sustainability advocate within a school who comes up with the idea of what we do next. I think that one of the easiest next steps or first steps that you can take is ask students. Tap into things that they're interested in, harness the energy that they have as a way to launch what you're trying to do. It's always great to have projects that adults have invented for students, but I can tell you, when students have the opportunity to kind of come up with the idea themselves, without much direction from adults, the power of that learning experience is so far beyond kind of engaging them in things that we've designed for them. So
definitely.
Terrific. Well, that brings us to the end of the discussion. Before I hand back to Danny, let me just thank our three panelists. It's been a wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
So have I. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your insights and enthusiasm and all the great work you're doing. And thank you to GESS for making this forum possible, and to Microsoft, I guess, for the sponsors.
And thank you, Anthony. Thank you for hosting us.
You're very welcome. And back to you, Danny.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, everyone. That was really such an interesting discussion and very informative. And just to add to Ben's last point about students taking initiatives, we've had a question from Wadad Sharif earlier on as well, asking how can you ensure that the environmental actions or practices are student initiated to give them more agency, motivation, and purpose. I don't know if you'd like to add anything to that. But
I think, as Ben said, curiosity is innate in children. So, they've already got the agency. We just need to support them.
True.
Exactly. And we've had a lot of amazing questions and comments. One comment that caught my eye was from Khawla Al-Hosani. She's saying, hi, everyone, from Al-Mashal Kindergarten at Delma Island. We're so pleased to attend this webinar. We're doing our best to make our kindergarten school one of the best schools when it comes to sustainable approaches. with the initiatives they're implementing. And Dalma Island is actually an island of the western region in the UAE. So it's, you could say quite remote. So it's really amazing to see that it's not only schools in the bigger regions or bigger cities that are, focusing more on sustainability in education. So just thought I'd flag that up. But other than that, thank you so much, everyone. Once again, that was really interesting. If anyone in the audience has any further questions or would like to connect with any of our speakers, please send an email to marketing@gesseducation.com. You'll also be redirected to a short survey once we end the webinar. So please tell us what you thought and if there are any topics you'd like to hear about in the future. Thank you once again to our sponsor, Microsoft. Make sure you get in touch with them if you'd like to find out more about their solutions to accelerate learning opportunities for all students. And if you want to enjoy the webinar all over again, you can do so, as we'll be uploading it to our GESS Education website and our YouTube channel. And we'll also be sending it out to all attendees by email. A massive, massive thank you once again to our panel and also you, our audience, for tuning in. We'll be running webinars regularly throughout the year, so please make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter, follow us on social media, and visit our website, www.gesseducation.com, to stay informed of our latest events. Until next time, take care and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.